Welcome to the I Heart My Fit Biz podcast, where we will be covering everything you need for inspiration, motivation, and practical advice in how to create a thriving fitness business. So welcome to this week's podcast. This week I have a really special guest. I'll let her introduce herself, but really exciting topics today, and especially for dance fitness instructors, but for fitness professionals, as usual, the podcast is for pretty much everyone. So I'm literally going to hand over to Katy, and for her to give you an intro, a little bit of a background about who she is, what she does, and what she's all about. So I'll pass you over right now. Hello, Katy.
Hi, Charlotte. Thank you so much for having me and for that fabulous introduction. So I am Katy Robinson. Lovely to meet you all virtually. I am the creator of On Broadway Dance Fitness. I run 3 businesses now within the dance fitness industry. I have been involved in the dance fitness industry for as long as I can remember. I've danced since I was the age of 3. I went dancing professionally on cruise ships when I left school. I was the only one in my 6th form year to not go to university and not fill in that UCAS form. And I went traveling on cruise ships doing what I love doing. Having done all my dance teaching qualifications as well, came back, took my fitness qualifications, did my exercise to music, and kind of got into teaching full-time back then. So crikey, in my mid-20s, I guess, so only a few years ago. And was one of these instructors that said yes to everything, did every single qualification under the sun, aqua, boxercise, step, all my dance stuff, all of those, teaching in gyms, hiring my own community halls. And at one point, I think I was teaching about 40 plus classes a week, which was crazy.
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely was saying yes to everything, traveling loads of time, preparing classes, and I ended up falling out of love with it, reaching that burnout point. Had a mortgage to pay, so I think you do end up saying yes to everything, don't you? And I literally jacked it in overnight. So I'd done my PGCE. I was tutoring other people how to be exercise to music instructors, traveling the world doing that as well. So I worked for a company where I was down south, and we went abroad with it and everything as well, tutoring and assessing on weekends, teaching during the week, and it was making me quite poorly, really. And I remember being sat with some friends on a Saturday night having dinner, and they were like, right, great, let's get another date in the diary when we can do this. And I was like, hang on a minute, that's like 6 months away, because that was my next free Saturday.
Yeah.
And just going, oh God, I can't do this anymore. So I literally did jack it in overnight, and I got a job, a proper job, she says, inverted commas in the air. And I worked as an executive PA for 7 years in a global company, which was very much square peg in a round hole when you look back at it.
Yeah.
So did that, but then really missed doing what I love doing. So I then started teaching 1 class a week again of my own, what I love doing. So going back to the dance fitness side, I had always taught what I'd called back then musical jazz, and then I rebranded it to be On Broadway Dance Fitness. I started then getting some help, because I'd done it when I was teaching 40 plus classes a week. And I think this is, obviously we're going to talk about this more, Charlotte, today, I'm sure, but nobody gives you a handbook on how to run it as a business. You become a fitness instructor because you love it, or you become a fitness instructor because you want to share your passion with as many people as possible. You take your qualification, but nobody tells you actually how to run it as a business. They teach you to be a fabulous instructor, but running it as a successful business, nobody tells you that. They don't teach it in school. No, it's not part of any of the fitness qualifications, or it never was. And you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants. And I think, the industry as it is, is changing, but as it was when I started, there was nothing. There was no business coaches. There was no, specifically for the fitness industry.
Yeah.
And you just kind of did what everybody else did, didn't you? You just taught loads, did as many qualifications as you could, because that was the normal.
Yeah, it's just what you do.
You want to earn money, you teach lots of classes, but you physically and mentally just can't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started seeking people out that could help me. I sought out a business coach, a marketing mentor, started to learn how to do it properly.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to end up in the same position I'd ended up before. I knew I wanted to do it, because when I used to teach this one class a week whilst working full time, my partner at the time, when I would come home, and he'd say, why can't you be this happy all the time? Like, I'd go and teach one class and I'd come home and he'd be like, you're like a different person. You know, you are the person I fell in love with when you come home from teaching a class, but, you know, working 9 to 5, which wasn't 9 to 5, it was a lot longer hours than that. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
So it's like, I really want to do it, but I was scared. I was really scared to start again, because I didn't want to reach that whole burnout point.
So it's that fear of going back to that burnout, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that fear of, I guess I thought I'd failed. It was that. So in the past, you know, teaching 40 plus classes a week, being very busy, you know, tutoring, doing all that, I just felt like I'd failed myself. Because I, you know, I knew I was a damn good instructor, knew I was a damn good teacher, but I just felt like I was like, if that's the only way I can do it, I don't want to do that again. You're right, it was fear of feeling like that again. So I dipped my toe back in, started changing things, started, you know, learning about marketing, learning a bit more about how to do it as a business. And I think maybe it was the mindset shift between being just a fitness instructor to being a business owner and an entrepreneur, solopreneur. It was that big shift in, oh, I'm not just a fitness instructor.
Yeah.
I'm so much more than that, because you have to wear different hats, don't you? When you are teaching fitness, and a lot of people, I think, feel that they have to do it as a hobby, because they can't make, again, it's the perception of our industry, you can't make good money doing what we do. You have to do it as a hobby alongside a proper job. You know, unless you're going to be really busy and teach loads of things and have a massive full timetable, you're never going to make good money. And that is, I think, you know, that is a perception of our industry, which I think is changing. And
slowly, but
people like you and me and various people that are, you know, it is getting there slowly, but it is definitely an industry where I still think people think they've got to be very busy.
Yes, definitely.
And they've got to do it all themselves and everything. So that's how I kind of then restarted. I could see that the changes I was making with the marketing, with the way I was running it as a business, with my mindset working on me, that it was working. So then I went part-time with my PA job whilst I gave myself, there was that safety net. I was like, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to leave that safety net.
That transition of,
so I was definitely peel the plaster off slowly rather than rip it off. Very quickly I saw that actually teaching just 3 classes a week, I was earning the same money doing that I was at my PA job. I was like, well, this is ridiculous, because I can do what I love doing, not work as hard, not be as busy as I am in my PA job, and actually do something that I love doing. But in order to do it and let it fly, I had to let go of the safety net, and it was the best thing I ever did. It was the best thing I ever did.
It's that moment of like, I know I can do this, but it's just ripping it off and just doing it. But then when you do it, it's like, why didn't I do that sooner?
I know. And it's that out of comfort zone, isn't it? And I hear it all the time now with people I work with and everything. And it's just that whole, it's really hard to let go, because it's that fear. But then when you do, oh my God, it's just amazing, because then you can slowly focus on it. And especially if you're passionate about what you do, you totally then can allow yourself to fly.
Absolutely.
You know, I was very mindful of how I wanted my business to look and how I wanted my life to be. And I very much advocate now, and still do, it's business around life. It's your life first, and your business goes around that. And you're teaching, it's not, oh my God, I've got to say yes to everything and I'll squeeze my life in the gaps that I've got. Or you know, and I hear so much now about I'm just too busy, I've got no time for my friends, I've got no time for my family, I've got no time for my kids, because people are still saying yes to everything and having to teach 40 plus classes a week just to make it work.
Absolutely. So when you went full time, because I know obviously you've got your own brand now as well.
Yes.
So did that
Yeah.
happen quite quickly after you went?
Yeah. So I always wanted to share what I did with as many people as possible. So my business model was hiring venues in a local area, but in a radius, so people could, I could reach more people.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I still want to reach more. Why am I just limiting it to the ladies of Sheffield?
Mm.
I was like, women will be so much better off with this in their lives, because it's a form of, for us with On Broadway Dance Fitness, it is specifically for women over 40 who don't like going to the gyms. They love a musical, but it's about escapism. It's about their mental health. It's all to do with creating communities and friends.
Yeah.
And then I then got some instructors in Manchester. We started classes in Manchester underneath my umbrella. And then we started in Bristol and then London. And that was me trying to do it all underneath my business. So the instructors were working for me. I was doing all the marketing. I was having to travel and do the training and all of those kind of things, which, again, I could feel myself getting to that point where it was like, I'm reaching that burnout point. And it was like, this feels harder than it should be.
Yeah.
Which then, that's where kind of the license, the franchise kind of came from, with like, how can we get On Broadway Dance Fitness out there on a bigger scale, but without me having
doing all the yeah.
It was about then, it was what I have learned over the years with the marketing, the business, all the mistakes I've made, because you learn faster the more mistakes you make. But I wanted to empower other dance fitness instructors to have a really successful business doing what they love doing, but giving them the knowledge around the business, so they didn't feel like they had to, teach loads of classes, and be very busy and not make much money. So I wanted to share not only my brand, but the business side of it to help other people. So it did quite quickly, actually. So it was definitely within the first, by the end of my second year, kind of after I'd gone back full time into Broadway Dance Fitness, I'd got instructors around, like instructors teaching for me by then, which was great. And then it was like, well, then that was the next step, the next logical step for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Like, it's like you telling my story as well. And what I hear so many other instructors saying, which is why, again, I've gone into the coaching side and the business side, because there's, like you said, there's nothing really in the industry that, and not specifically for fitness as well. But I completely relate with your burnout, with the whole teaching too much, all of that. And I think it's so common, it's so scarily common in the fitness industry that it just shouldn't be that way. And like you say, we get trained to have the qualifications, but we don't get trained on that business side. And then we, like I say, take on all these classes and teach loads of different things. And then we haven't got time to learn all the business stuff because we've taken on so much. And so then it's a harder transition. And then, like you say, it feels like we've failed because we're just burnt out, and we can't physically make any more money because we can't physically teach anymore. So it's like listening to kind of my story of my life, and I'm sure many other fitness instructors. And I think you're on the kind of the same mindset as me in terms of really preventing this before it happens to instructors, really getting to that point where actually they're starting out with the knowledge and with the mindset before going like we did, like burning out and then having to almost restart and do it all again from scratch.
Absolutely.
So what advice would you give to create that more time, more income, more energy for specifically dance fitness instructors, but the fitness industry in general? And also Well, let's just start there. Let's just start there, because I know you'll probably have a lot to say on that.
In terms of what advice I would give dance fitness instructors to create more time, money, and energy, this is a big passion project of mine at the moment as well. First of all, you can't create more time. We all have the same amount of time. For me, it's what you choose to do with that time and where you place your value. So Robert Kiyosaki, who is the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, he always he has a saying that rich people value their time and poor people value their money more than their time. So as a fitness instructor, because we're not taught how to do it properly, we feel like we have to do everything within our business ourselves. So we have to look at the finances. We have to be that finance director. We have to be the marketing person. We have to be the customer service person. We have to be the instructor. We have to be the visionary in the business, like the CEO. And I very much look at it in terms of, I guess, having spent time in the corporate world and having to draw lots of organization charts. I really try and look at it as right, okay, what hats am I wearing in the business? What roles are there in the business? If I was to have team, what would those team members look like? And then divide my time with the relevant hats on. But I think as a solopreneur, people think that they have to do it all themselves. And I think it's about looking at where you value your time. For us as instructors, because we probably got into it because we love teaching what we teach. Yeah. If we can free up time elsewhere in the business with the admin side, the business side, by either giving it to people who that is their zone of genius, so we can spend time in our zone of genius and what we are good at doing. So the more time we spend in that area, we can probably make more money teaching an extra class, which will pay for those systems and those people. So definitely for me, people and systems in my business make a massive difference, and definitely create more time for me to spend where I'm passionate about being, which allows me to make the money because I'm spending time in my place of passion. Whereas somebody else who loves a spreadsheet or a system that can automate all the emails and do that marketing side, because I used to spend all my time sending out emails to like people that inquired and booked onto our taster classes. It was me that was having to send all the emails out and remember the emails I'd sent. Then I employed an inquiries assistant to do that job, but now I have a system that does that job, so that's saving me money and time because that system does all that for me. So that for sure is a big one. I think about not being fearful about just being specific on working with one ideal client as well. I think, again, because we say yes to everything, we feel like we've got to be everything to everybody. Really kind of honing down and knowing who you love working with. Yeah, specific ideal group of clients that you've maybe got. I got really specific about who on Broadway Dance Fitness targeted, and I'm really specific about what kind of dance fitness instructor I want to teach my brand and become a licensee. I'm really specific about which kind of dance fitness instructors I coach, because you can be everything to everybody, but then your marketing gets really hard because you've got to have different marketing for everything you teach. Like there's no one size fits all marketing. And I see that people do try that, and it's like tumbleweed. So you've got to really learn who your ideal client is and speak to their conversation in their head and really get inside what their problems are and what their thoughts and fears are, so that when you're marketing to them, they're like, oh my God, this person really knows who I am. And I think the biggest fear when I say that to people is that, well, there's just not enough of them. I have to teach all these different brands, all these different classes and to all these different people because I'm never going to make enough money teaching just one thing. Yeah. But if you get your marketing right and you know your ideal client, there's loads of them. I mean, we only teach one brand to one specific ideal client, and I'm turning over a 6-figure business doing it, and I've got team in place. So for that, I think not being scared to be different. Yeah. And especially, marketing on social media, as you know, is so hard. You've got to stand out from the crowd. You've got to be able to stop the scroll. You've got to, not feel like you have to do things because that's how other people have always done them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the same, because with me and my brand and the way I run my with my licensees, it's not a 1-day CPD course that you come on and you're now qualified. I do things very differently because they join a coaching and licensing program. And for a while it was a bit like, oh, I'm going to have to be like all the other brands. I'm going to have to just do that training day and just like let it go. And I didn't want to. It didn't sit right with me. So I think not being scared to be different for sure. And definitely thinking it as a business. So in order to create more money, you need to be looking at your profit. You need to be understanding what your profit is and how to maximize your profit, not being scared to charge what you're worth. I think a lot of us charge because of, people won't pay for that. You have to do pay as you go. You have to just charge £3 a class, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it's about, for me, I think pay as you go as an industry is dead, personally. I think people should be doing memberships, packages, monthly stuff. People are so used to paying for things monthly now, direct debits. I mean, I don't carry cash with me, very rarely. So if I had to go to a class that was cash, that I wouldn't, I'd be like, oh, I've got to go to the cash machine to get cash out. And but I think it's about valuing what you're worth. You've done your blood, sweat and tears. You've done the qualifications. You're taking the risk. So not being scared to charge what you're worth, packaging it up for people so they can see the value in what you're offering.
Yeah.
And if you're solving their problems and you are helping them and you're helping them achieve their goals and you're working with your ideal client, then it's that law of reciprocity, isn't it? You are giving them value. It's going to come back to you tenfold. And I think if you're doing what you love doing, and for me, streamlining and cutting out the classes that I didn't like doing, like I hated teaching aqua. It's like, ugh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was definitely one that I was like, oh, there's hardly any aqua instructors in the area. I must do my aqua qualification.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't enjoy teaching something, it's going to come across like, do the stuff that you really enjoy, get rid of the stuff that you don't enjoy and spend more time honing that bit. Like, I often say, teach one thing, teach one ideal client, make it work, look at your marketing, and then you can always rinse and repeat it. If that works for that and you want to then introduce something else, then you can rinse and repeat it. So, I mean, I could go on for hours.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, absolutely. And I think just saying, those are absolutely what I would say as well. And there's something you said actually earlier in the thing that I was going to pick up on about the whole we need to stop thinking about ourselves as just a fitness instructor and really looking at it from a business owner perspective.
One of the tasks I did very early on with one of my coaches was writing a list. Basically, it was you've got a job if this happens, or you've got a business if this happens. And I think for me it was like I was teaching all the classes myself, so if I got sick or I wanted to go on holiday, like your income stops. That's a job, not a business. If you're doing everything yourself, all of that kind of thing. And it was like, oh yeah, I want to run it as a business because I want to be able to take holidays without my income stopping. I want to be able to, if I get sick or injure myself, I want that. I don't want it to be all wrapped around me. It needs to be a business. So that
definitely. I think as well, like I can't remember where I heard this kind of saying, but like I say, a job, you're employed in a job, you get paid for the job that you do, the hours that you work. And really, sometimes a self-employed fitness instructor is basically a self-employed job where you are getting paid for the hours that you teach. But it's almost even worse because, like say, you don't get paid for those holidays sometimes that you take or time off. And so it's that shift of actually having a business. And the other thing that I was going to say about when you said about the ideal client, and this is something that, again, when I first started, I did business course at the very beginning of my fitness kind of business career. And that was always the first thing. Any course I did, ideal client. And it's like, oh, I'll just leave that because I'll just leave that. Or I'd do it and then I'd but I want to help those people, and I take other people on and take other classes on, things like that. And it is always the last thing. And when I coach people now, I'm like, please, like, you cannot move on to the other section of the coaching until you've done this, because it's almost like that. We are caring fitness instructors. We want to help everybody, and especially dance fitness, when we are teaching in our local area, it's almost like, well, any woman that wants to come to my class can come to my class. That is my ideal, and it's so not niche enough. So what more advice would you give on that, especially for if somebody at the moment, so say like I'm a fitness instructor at the moment who teaches all those different classes, and are really, really scared to just focus on one class or one ideal client. What would you say to them to help them make that transition to really niche down?
Yeah, I think just going back to something else you just said before I start on that, and you said, you get paid for what you teach, but you don't get paid for your preparation time and your travel time when you're a fitness instructor. So you have to factor that in as well. And that goes back to me, the whole valuing your time and money differently, etc. But anyway, ideal client, yes. It is scary because you do think, I want to teach women, and it's very broad, and you're having people come to your classes that want to come, and you want to say yes to everybody because you care, and also because it's money in your pocket. But I think if you get there's always going to be somebody in your class that you absolutely love teaching, and there's always going to be someone that you really don't like teaching. I mean, we've all been there. You're like, oh, I really hope that person doesn't come. Oh, you could sack somebody, you would sack them. I'm sure we've all taught classes with those kind of people in. So for me, it's about getting to really know the clients that you love teaching, finding out as much about those people as possible, finding out where else they go, where else they hang out, what do they read, where do they go, where else do they spend their money, which hairdressers do they go to, which coffee shops do they go to, do they go to other classes with other people, what do they do for a job, what is their demographic, how old are they, what's their background, how many kids have they got, how old are the kids. Being really, really specific about that person. It's almost like creating an avatar. So when I sit down to write my marketing, I really kind of have my brilliant, amazing ladies in my mind that I know everything about, and about really using their words as well. So if they have a problem, a lot of our ladies kind of go, oh, I really worry that I'm going to be too old, or I've got 2 left feet. Now, I'm not going to change those words in my marketing to make it sound better. You have to use those words that your ideal client says in order to attract more of the same.
Just a note on that, actually, is because I've literally done a mini training on this, because I see so many, and it's because, again, sometimes it sounds critical, you shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that, but it's because we don't, and I used to do it all the time, and we haven't had that training. We're not trained as business people. But I see a lot saying, oh, improve your flexibility, improve your strength. And that almost means nothing to the person that they're trying to reach, because it's like, well, that's kind of fitness talk and fitness, and we know that that's what they need. But actually, how is that affecting them in their everyday life, and affect, and the kind of speaking in their language of like, oh yeah, that's affecting me, I really need that class. But they're not going to come to that class if it is in that kind of language of, you need to improve your flexibility.
It's almost like they don't know that they need to improve their flexibility. They know that they just feel stiff. Or for us, it's definitely more the stuff in their heads that we talk to. Like I feel too old. I've lost my confidence. I used to dance maybe when I was a kid, or I just feel too old. I'm overweight. They're not saying things like, I need to improve my coordination and I need to improve my flexibility. Like, I want something fun to do that I can stick to, that doesn't feel judgmental. I don't want to go to a gym, don't want to look in a mirror at myself. It's all those limiting beliefs that as we get older, especially as women, I think we wrap ourselves up with these limiting beliefs that suffocate us. And it's about those more in the more of the mental health side, really. But
Yeah.
yes, they come to the classes and they will improve the coordination, they will improve the flexibility, they probably will lose weight because it's a cardio stuff. But if you're putting that out there in your marketing, like, you know, come to our fitness classes to lose weight, improve your flexibility and coordination, that's not going to speak to them.
No. And it's almost like having that like listening to what they're really sometimes not saying, like the thing of, oh yeah, I need to really go to a class and say like they want to lose weight, but actually what does that mean to them? They probably don't actually want to lose a lot of weight, but they just want to feel good about themselves, or they're feeling like say, not like they used to, not like they were when they were younger, and they want to get that back. So it's kind of like all the thoughts in their head that they are secretly thinking, you're kind of saying to them as well.
Yeah.
If that makes
and again,
sense.
oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And again, it's like, especially women, and especially women of a certain age, they are kind of, they're still mothers with dependent children, but then they've got older parents that they are caring for. It's about time for themselves, it's about the escapism, but they probably wouldn't say that about themselves. They probably wouldn't, because, you know, we tend to not put ourselves first as women. But for somebody like us to be able to say to them, it's time, this, you know, an hour for you a week, an hour to forget about everything else, they kind of go, oh yeah, I do need that.
Yeah.
And I think, go on. For people that are scared to really hone into one client, I think it's I know it's easy to say, it's like, don't be scared, there's so many of them, but if you really get super specific on your ideal client, like really specific, I don't know, you know, I am a big believer in the law of attraction, and like attracts like, etc. So if you're getting super specific about it, you will attract more of those people, because you're using the right language that's going to attract them. And I think that's what stands us out from the crowd as well, because it's not like, oh, I'm a dance fitness instructor and I teach all these different things to everybody. You get, you know, you're super specific on who you work with, and that becomes therefore your unique selling point. That's like that person is the go-to person for that ideal client, because they're really going to solve that ideal client's problems, and not just trying to be a one-stop shop for everybody.
Exactly. And I think it is the thing of it just becomes so much easier when you let everything else drop away. It's almost like a relief of like, oh, I don't have to please everyone. I don't have to like do it. And I don't have to do all the things. It's like, oh, I've just got that one. I'm speaking to, and she'll know I'm talking about her, but I had one of my clients say to me, I don't know if it's too niche, but I just want to teach people with yoga who like yoga, who like cats, and are like the woo-woo spiritual stuff instead of the fitness stuff. I was like, you've just literally described me, for one, and that is not too niche at all. Like, and I think a lot of people are scared of like, oh, if I go too niche, there will be nobody, and then so they fear doing it as well. So
I think the niche the better, actually, because you can really help those people rather than trying to be too broad. And especially when you are, you know, charging for memberships or packages, you want to be adding value to those people. But if you've got such a broad range of clients, the value that you add isn't going to be valuable to half of those people. You're trying to, like you say, you're trying to please everybody, and it just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, you've got to please yourself as well. You've got to love what you do. If you're teaching people that doesn't really float your boat, you're not being true to yourself either.
Absolutely. And I think, like I say, when we first start in business, when I first started, you know, I wanted to have that time freedom while doing something that I loved. And then you get to that point where like you are taking everything on, and one person from your class says, oh, that'd be a good idea for a class. And then you think, all right, I have to do it. And you just kind of add on and add on and add on. So it's scary, but like I said, it's in every business course. Like if anybody is thinking about doing a business course, that is the one thing. So
it's the one thing, and like you say, it's always the first thing. And you maybe don't hear it straight away, or you don't think it's important, or you dismiss it. But you know, like yourself, I've done that many courses of my own and stuff, that it really is important.
Yeah, definitely. And it, like I say, nothing else really, to be honest with you, no marketing ever really works until you've got that.
No.
I think it's that, and also the mindset stuff as well, which people again dismiss. I just need to know the marketing system. Give me the marketing system, and I need to know it. But sometimes it is the other things that we just ignore.
Yeah, I used to hear the word mindset and do a runner because I'd be like, oh, it's all woo stuff and it's it's not for me. I'm a doer and I'm an action taker.
Absolutely.
But I now advocate you can't even sit down to do marketing or business if your mind is not in the right place. I mean, there's some days where I've got a plan in place to do whatever, and I know I'm in a funk, and I'm like, well, there's no point even working on my business until I've sorted my head out.
Exactly.
Because it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's so important, and like I said, it's one of those things that people dismiss. The more I work on my mindset, the more successful I am, the more successful my market, and even the marketing that I've always done works better when my mindset is better, and I have that belief in myself, and I get rid of any other limiting beliefs. And that's the thing. People come to me and say, I just need to know how to use Facebook. I just need to know how to market on Instagram. Just need to know this, and it's like, okay, you think that's what you need to know, but actually, like any marketing system, and I've said this before, any marketing that works has literally just been one person doing that marketing technique. It's worked for them, so they've taught it to somebody else, and they've taught it to somebody else, and they've taught it to somebody else. And that's really all marketing is. So what I tend to say is they work, but how can you make it work for you? And how can you get behind it? Because a lot of people, like I think you said earlier, are doing things that they think they should be doing rather than what is aligned with them and their ideal clients. And
absolutely.
a lot of people think they should be on all social medias, but actually if their ideal client isn't on there, and if they are reaching out, want to reach everyone, then maybe they should be on all social medias. But when they've got that ideal client, it takes that element away of I don't have to be everywhere.
Absolutely. I always say you fish where the fish are. You only fish where those fish that you want are, for sure. I was just thinking there was something else that when you were speaking, then I was like, oh yes, and it's totally gone out of my head.
You're just like me. I feel like I've got this I need to get it out.
It is. You do. It was about the marketing, definitely, and I still see a lot of fitness instructors, dance fitness instructors doing what I call town hall posts, like class 6:15 tonight, come, and then a picture. And that isn't saying anything about who you are or what you're about, because people need to know you, like you, and trust you. And they want to come to your classes because it's you or what you're about, your values. Whereas those town hall posts, as I call them, they don't speak to anybody.
No. And even to this point where, and it is important that you're qualified and experienced, but I see a lot 12 years experience listing on kind of their qualifications. And yes, that is important if somebody kind of wants to know that. And obviously you shouldn't be teaching if you're not qualified. But also, I've never had anybody ask me for my qualifications. And it's not the first thing, to be honest, I look for when somebody's advertising something.
No.
And yes, it is important. But again, I personally, this is just my personal I don't think it's relevant a lot for a lot of marketing.
No, I mean, when I was back in the day, when I was presenting a lot and national presenter, all my marketing was all about me. It was like, this is, professional dancer, all these qualifications, and it was just now knowing what I know. It's like that is like, but it's irrelevant really, because it's about my values. It's about who I am. It's about why. And I think, Simon Sinek's golden circles, I always come back to. It's most people will put on their marketing what they do and how they do it. Very rarely will people put why they do it. And the why you do it is it's the feeling, it's the values, and that's what draws people in. That's what connects people to people. So, we're just putting on Broadway dance fitness, top hats, canes, come to our class. That's the what and the how, but it's the why we do it, because we're passionate about sharing, our love of dance with people, and passionate that women have time for themselves and all of those kind of things.
Absolutely.
So I think it's connecting to the why you do what you do, but not being afraid to use that in your marketing and tell people that.
Absolutely. And I think it's almost like the more you become, and in terms of aligning with your values and why you're doing what you're doing, the like I say, the easier it gets to align with those ideal clients and to really get your message out there.
Yeah.
Whereas again, we are an industry of like, oh, everyone else is doing that, we'll do the next big thing, we'll do the next big thing, and we become like almost robots of like generic
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And
yeah, I could talk forever
I
on
know.
marketing.
It's
Yeah.
like going back to what you said about the mindset stuff and that people run away from that. I know over in my dance fitness business community that we've got going on, when I do the trainings in there, if it's the practical how-to stuff, people turn up. As soon as you mention mindset, nobody turns up. But then when they watch the replays, they're like, oh my God, that was so amazing. That was so useful. Because you don't think you need it, but you absolutely do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we always want to know how. Just show me how to do this, show me how to do
Yeah,
that. And actually, I think we are sometimes fearful of it because we're afraid to look at ourselves
that's
sometimes. We're
exactly what
afraid
I was about
to,
to say. It's
yeah,
scarier looking in on yourself, and it's much easier just to do the do on your business. But
yeah.
it's so scary unraveling some of that stuff that's
Yeah,
already been there.
absolutely. And I think the more we go within ourselves, and I think with marketing, and I'm going to say it, and this is probably like really out there, but actually, I think you can do like sometimes I don't believe in marketing. I know there's marketing systems and I use them, and but actually, I think we put too much emphasis on that. And I think if we just trust what we feel called to do in terms of marketing, sometimes that is enough.
Oh yeah, one of my good friends, an amazing business owner, she's a Pilates business owner. She does very little marketing, but she
Mm.
works on herself a lot. She is true to herself, integrity, all of that. And her clients just come in
Calm,
without
yeah, yeah.
marketing, really. I mean, yes, she does a little bit of marketing, but she doesn't spend loads on Facebook. She doesn't do that. She just really works on herself. And every
Mm.
time she does that, they just appear from,
Yeah. And
law of attraction.
I do have to say, a lot of, especially within the last 2 years or so, a lot of my clients have literally come out of nowhere. And I'm like, how did you find like
Yeah.
obviously they've seen things or whatever, they've somehow, but they've not been following me on Instagram or Facebook. They've not been on my email list, and they've just contacted me. And I feel like that's like, you've just come out of
Just
nowhere, like where did you come
manifested
from?
them from
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly,
Yeah, same.
exactly.
I've had one of my new licensees, she has known of me for 7 years and has just kind of, and I'd kind of didn't really know about her.
Yeah,
And she was like, oh my God, I've known about you for 7 years. And it's just been one of those things. And now I just feel drawn to do it. It's now the right time.
yeah. And I think we all have that. I always say this as well, like wherever we're posting, we're not getting any people go on about engagement. It's not about that because people are watching.
Yeah, of
Like
course
people are
they are.
always watching, and it might not just not be their time to come to your class or your service, but they are still watching and they still, maybe resonate with you, but it's not their time. And when it is, you are there to welcome them in.
Absolutely. And they as well, and it's a thing that's said in the marketing world, but people have to see you or hear about you well, it used to be 17 times, but I've seen recently that's gone up to like people need to see or hear about you about 25 times before they'll
Mm,
actually take action. So you're right, they're watching, they're seeing you on social media, or they're seeing you at an event, or they're going somewhere, they're seeing a flyer. There's all these different things, and it's
mm,
just, and then it'll just feel aligned for them
yeah.
at the right time to connect with you.
Absolutely, yeah. And that action might only be a like on your post,
Yeah,
like kind of 20, 25 times,
yeah,
and then it'll be another 5 times where they actually maybe.
absolutely. Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's,
we
and
do
that makes
copy
it
paste
seem
it.
like, that
Sorry.
makes it seem really hard to market. But like I say, if you've got the mindset stuff, and I'm somebody who just believes in the universe, and I believe in all the woo-woo stuff. But if that is all lined up, then like I say, sometimes marketing almost becomes irrelevant. And if you are giving if you are loving the marketing that you're doing, instead of doing, oh, I have to do this, I have to, that is sometimes enough. Like if you love what you post, and if you love how, what you're doing in terms of marketing, which a lot of us don't, a lot of fitness professionals just don't like that side, and they'll just, oh, I'll just put that out there. that comes across as well, and the
Yeah,
energy that we put behind it.
Absolutely does. Yeah.
Yeah. We could go on forever, but I'm just gonna do one last thing, because I know we've kind of gone way over time, but teaching a dance fitness business in terms of physical classes, what would you say to people to take it to the next level? Would you, is it online? Is it your own dance fitness brand? Like, or how can they make it work if they just want to teach? Because a lot of people they want to take it to that next level almost, but without being the fitness brand or the online business. So what would you say to people in that kind of place?
I think you've got to do what you want to do, and like, again, and not be drawn just because somebody else is doing that. Like, follow your own path. Stay true to who you are. If you just want to teach, and you don't want a big business, that's cool, that's good. If you do want a bigger business, then get team. For me, having team and people, that allows me then to not teach as much as I used to, but the business is still flourishing. That then allows me to go and do what else I want to do, which is the coaching and sharing my passion for the business side of it now with people, but also for me to be able to go on holiday, walk the dogs without having to think, oh, I've got to teach all the classes myself. But that's not for everybody. Not everybody wants team, and I think it's just, for me, I don't know whether it's because you have a midlife crisis at 40, it's a midlife awakening, but it's like I've started down so many paths and gone, oh, I've got to do that because that person's doing it that way, and then, oh, that person's doing it over there, and it's like shiny object syndrome, and I'm like, I'll follow that person. And it's not maybe till I've got a bit older where I've gone, I'm just on my own path now. I can see those people on that path, and that's great, and I might go over there a little bit, but I guess I know where I want to go, and I know what I want, and it's okay for it to change as well. So plugging something into your sat nav, and you might decide you're going on a different destination. But if you want to move to the next level in your dance fitness business, I think it's, what is that next level for you? How does that look for you? What do you want from your life? Like, what does your life want to look like? How much money do you want to earn? How much time do you want to have? How much do you want to teach? If you want to teach less but still earn the same, then get bigger venues, get more clients in, increase your capacity, charge more money, and teach less if that's what you want to do. Or it's like, if you want to move into the coaching stuff, great, but if you just want to teach classes, then maybe get people teaching for you.
What would you say to, if people did want, so say, like, because I get a lot of people who they don't want to do the marketing stuff, they just don't want to do it, and so that would be, for me, my advice, well, you need to outsource that then, because it's something that you absolutely need. So what would you say to people if they, and that reply back would be like, well, I can't afford to do that. Can't afford to do that just yet.
That a lot.
So what advice would you give to those people who would like that external help but feel like they can't afford it at the moment, like, and they're in that place of like, oh, I'm just stuck because I don't want to do it myself, and I can't afford to pay somebody yet, or they feel like they can't afford to pay somebody just yet? What would you say?
And it's that whole chicken and egg cycle, isn't it? And I think it's looking at your strengths, so being aware of what your strengths are as a person. I don't have many strengths in what we call the executing side of stuff. I'm not very good at doing stuff. I'm really good at being talking about stuff, but then turning it into action. I'm like, oh, that's boring, that's not my strength. It's about recognizing that strength in you, and recognizing that where your gaps are in your strengths, that other people's strengths are in those gaps. So surrounding yourself with people that have those strengths, that love doing those jobs that you hate doing. So I think I always say, write yourself a list of things that you love and that you're good at, and things that you hate and you're not good at, because that column with the hate and not good at are the things that are going to take you more time because you put them off, you procrastinate. And they're the stuff that some people will be really good at and love, and it'll take them less time. And it's almost like you can't afford not to invest in that, because you could. It's a bit like my cleaner. When I was with my ex-partner, he point blank refused to have a cleaner because he point blank refused to pay for a cleaner. But we both hated cleaning the house, and we'd spend all day Sunday doing it. and bickering with each other, and it would take us all day on Sunday to clean because we hated it. Whereas I now have a cleaner and I pay her for 2 hours a week, and I can teach a class and earn enough to pay her for weeks on end by teaching one more class. So the time that she gives me back, I don't have to clean my house. It's going to take me all day on a Sunday to teach one class in 1 hour. I can earn the money to pay her for a month, 2 months in one class. So I think it's about going back to that. Where do you value your time, or do you value your money? And if you're doing jobs that are taking you a long time because you don't know how to do them, you don't want to do them, or you're not doing the jobs, like the marketing, which is one thing that you shouldn't ever not do. You know, somebody else could do it in half the time. It doesn't have to be a full-time job for people. And also, if you can't afford it, think about, is there anybody that you teach that could maybe do it, and offer them a service swap? I have a lady that has free classes and gives me a bit of her time because she's knowledgeable in that area. So there's service swaps you could do. You don't have to pay someone a load of money to do stuff. But with things like marketing and anything that you hate doing that takes you a long time to do, you can't afford not to invest in having a system or somebody, a person to do things for you. And it is a chicken and egg. It's like, oh, if I haven't got the money, but you're not going to get the money if you don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is hard, and again, it is hard when you are in that place and you feel like that you're never going to move forward and never going to get out of it. But it's almost like, and there's a quote which I can't remember specifically off the top of my head, but it's basically, everything has to happen in order for you to be where you need to be, along those lines. And I really do kind of believe that. And if we start to look at our struggles in those times as like, right, what can I learn from this? How do I need to grow from this? Is this an experience I'm going through because it's showing me what I don't want instead of what I do want? Really looking at those struggles instead of just, because I used to just kind of stop and complain about them and talk about it to anyone. But when I really, again, worked on that mindset and started to look at things like, right, I need to either learn from this, grow from this, or do something completely different, because it's the energy that is bringing me isn't bringing me any.
It's like that saying, isn't it? If you change nothing, nothing changes.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the insanity definition is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to change something if you want to change where you are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think we should wrap it up there. I think we're going to have to do another one because I can literally go on and on and on, but I've taken way too much of your time, and this is going to be a really long episode. I might have to split it into two. I don't even know what I'm going to call it because we've covered so much. So I might have to split it into two, but thank you so much. Is there any last thing that you want to say or share with anyone out there?
I think just, if you're passionate about what you do it because you love it, and seek ways to make what you do successful and fun, whatever your definition of success is, whether that's time or money or whatever. And don't be afraid to go out there and do things differently, and find yourself the help that you need to do it, and not let yourself get to that burnout point where you need to, like me, jack it all in and give what you love up. Yeah. Because again, I had to do that as well. I literally had to take 3 months off because of burnout, go back to a job. So I think we're both on that same mission of like, don't get to that place. Do something before you get to that burnout place, because it's, Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
And I will put all your links below in the podcast notes, and I will also share it out to my email list and everything like that. So if anybody does want to work with Katy, or I know you've got a free group as well, so all of those links will be in the episode notes.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode. If you found anything interesting, inspiring, motivating, useful in this podcast, please reach out to me and let me know. I love to hear your stories and how this has helped you. It's been my aim and my passion to help fitness business owners build thriving fitness businesses, but also build a fitness business without burnout and exhaustion, because that's where I found myself a few years ago. So if you need help with your Fit Biz, whether it's building online and creating an online service with a website and app and new clients coming into your fitness business on a constant, consistent basis, or maybe you would love help filling your classes and bringing in new clients to your classes every week and every month. Maybe it's social media that you're struggling with in terms of promoting your fitness business.